I do love Mark Anthony, man. I love that guy. Ah, that's it. You think I'm lying. I have that song on my playlist.
Cool.
That's on my playlist.
I do not think you're lying.
Yeah, he's great. I love that guy, man. Da 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 dum. Do do do. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. Wilder Show podcast. I'm Scott. That's Lauren.
Hello.
And how are you today, Lauren?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. We have lots to talk about today. Instagram, you find us there, Wilder Show Pod, and you'll like it and follow us, and we appreciate that. If you want to send email, just email to podcast@wildershow.com. The Wilder Show podcast drops Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central Time on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, sometimes on the TikTok, and many times, most times before 6 a.m. Wherever you get your podcast, would you like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share? And we really appreciate that. And an apology, Lauren.
Oh, yeah?
Well, we had a little snafu last time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Kind of got to explain that.
Okay.
After more than 150 episodes of the podcast, had a real technical glitch, an actual technical glitch on the previous episode. So all you got was scattershoot, which is fine. We did it all, but couldn't include any of it. So it's me. It's on me. So I'm sorry about that. And honestly, in all humility, probably was our best stuff ever.
The world will never know. All you can do is take our word for it.
We'll get to the Memorandum of Understanding in a second. What is today?
Juneteenth?
Yeah, Juneteenth. Today is Juneteenth. And so I guess some people have the day off. And if you do something good or whatever you do with your days off, you know, that really basically was a Texas-inspired holiday.
Oh, yeah?
You know that, right?
I didn't
You know the
know
history
that.
behind the whole thing.
I do.
Well, it was that Galveston, Texas was the last place to know you have to set the slaves free.
Okay.
So that came on June the 19th. I guess it would be 1865 at the end of the Civil War.
Right.
So Texas, I guess, held its slaves longer than any other place because we didn't know. They didn't have, email back then.
No.
Social media. So it
Couldn't
had to
just send out a text.
Correct. So I guess they could have done telegraph or whatever, tick, 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 tick or whatever. But in any case, that's why. So basically it's a Texas thing. Whatever you do on this day, do that and have a great day. Just had a random thought the other day. I think there are fewer rubber bands.
Okay.
Do you think that's possible?
Oh, I think it's possible. I don't know if it's true.
Well, it seems like in olden times, there were always rubber bands around the house. And there were rubber bands because of what? We always took the rubber bands off
the newspaper.
That's right.
Yeah.
Off the newspaper. There was always a jar, an old olive jar or something, some jam or jelly jar that had some paper clips and had a bunch of rubber bands. And so if you're looking for rubber bands, I don't think there are as many rubber bands as there used to be.
I think there are far fewer paper clips than there used to be.
See, you're following my lead.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I still have a lot of rubber bands.
Do you really?
And you know, when it comes to the newspaper delivery thing, I have, and maybe this was just because it was more recent, what I have, not just floating around the house anymore, are the long, skinny plastic bags. We used to, we used to never have to buy bags to walk the dog because we always had the bags from the newspaper. Those were perfect little bags to be recycled for another household purpose.
And World Cup is going on. World Cup. U.S. plays again today. They'll be on the pitch, as they say.
Nice.
Yeah.
You watched Ted Lasso?
I did. Yeah, I'd watch a little bit. Funny show. And I did see that in their first match, Canada had to play Bosnia and Herzegovina, which I don't think seems fair at all.
I think you're misunderstanding the way to read that. It's one place. Yeah.
Canada
it's just
is
one team. No. Bosnia, Herzegovina.
Oh, got it. Okay. So they weren't playing two teams.
No.
I was going to say, because I think they won. Which for me, it meant they were extra strong.
Really good.
Remember when I was filling in for Mark Davis recently and was talking about the war and gave some thoughts or even some predictions, and some listener texts me and says, "You're an idiot."
I do remember that.
President Trump would never let that happen. And I thought, gosh, what are they talking about? I think I think it was in response to what I said about the Strait of Hormuz and the fact that it probably would never be opened again, and that Iran would be stronger at the end of all of this because they will own it and they will charge tolls. And even if they don't right now, they will know that if they ever need to again, they can shut it down, hold everybody hostage. And I think that's what he was responding to. So to William, I think his name was, perhaps I'm not an idiot, or at least this is not the evidence of it. Let's see what's in the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU. In the war with Iran, this Memorandum of Understanding, it has been signed now, and we're going to take a look at what it says, but also what it doesn't say. But first we have to look at what it is and what it is not before we even do that. It isn't a peace deal. It's a conditional pause in hostilities. That's all.
Okay.
So a ceasefire that will last 60 days or maybe longer, it says in there, we'll get to some of this, during which there will be negotiations about all the other things. And as hard as it is to hear, I think we're conceding. I do. If we had to win, we lost.
This is not winning.
If Iran only had to not lose to win, they won. So what are people saying? Not just Democrats. What are Republicans saying? Bill Cassidy, I don't know if you know who Bill Cassidy is.
I don't.
From Louisiana. He said, Ronald Reagan is rolling over in his grave. This is the worst foreign policy blunder in decades.
Wow.
Iran's nuclear ambitions were not curbed, and they have learned that threatening the Strait of Hormuz works and will undoubtedly leverage it in the future. Now Iran gets to build brand new infrastructure under this deal. 13 Americans are dead. Families have paid billions of dollars at the pump. Sanctions are going to be lifted, and the bombing is stopped. Ted Cruz said, history teaches that giving billions of dollars to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us is not a good idea. I think the president is receiving some very poor advice on this deal. So the Memorandum of Understanding does not address Iran's nuclear program, which is odd because you think about it, that was sort of the big thing. The big trump card, lowercase t, was Iran can never have a nuclear bomb.
Right.
So those initial things that we all believed we were going there for, suffering for, the memorandum doesn't really address that. It also does not prohibit Iran from being in charge of or charging tolls for passage in the Strait of Hormuz at some point in the future. I think the memorandum, we'll get to in a second, the Memorandum of Understanding actually says, for these 60 days, we will lift our blockade and you will allow free passage. So you will not charge anything and you will not stop anyone from passage. So basically 60 days for everybody to get out. All these ships and containers and tankers that have been stuck there, they're going to get out. They got to get out fast. So they'll be lining up to get out. But it also leaves open the future of Iran's missile program, which even U.S. intelligence tells us Iran still has 70% of its pre-war missile stockpile and 75% of the mobile missile launchers. One more response. John Cornyn, responding to all this, said the lack of significant Iranian concessions on its nuclear program, its weapons arsenal, and its long-standing practice of funding militant proxies throughout the Middle East raises serious concerns. And Cornyn points out that the deal doesn't prevent Iran from continuing to enrich uranium or toll the strait, and, quote, it gives them a lot of money they can use to fund their proxies. Okay, we said all along that Iran's ability to endure pain is greater than ours, and that to win, as we said before, Iran just has to not lose. For U.S. to win, we have to win. Shutting the Strait of Hormuz, having that choke hold on gas prices, impacted America, impacted the world. They have the ability to outlast us, and they did. Listen to what the president said a couple of days ago about the Memorandum of Understanding. He said, I didn't want to see economic catastrophe. If you kept this going, that could have happened. Yeah.
That's not a surprise, is it?
Not to the rest of us. That's what we said.
Yeah.
What is the lesson here? The lesson here is Iran can endure more pain than we can. Iran now has what they never had before, which is the ability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. And they know the impact it's going to have internationally, financially, on the U.S. economy. And they know that America won't endure it. The best scenario is we're kicking the can down the road. That's the best scenario.
What's the worst?
That we lost. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
And that they're going to, by the time we get around to this next time, which, by the way, is going to happen right before 2028 presidential election. Just watch. Because Iran is going to know, if you really want to impact and hold somebody hostage, if you do it right before an election in the United States, they can't endure it. There's no way Republicans will be able to endure it if we're doing this again in 2 years, in early 2028. Now, who else has some incentive in maybe this not working out? There are two parties that signed the agreement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Only two parties. But there are three parties that are impacted by this. Israel is one of those. And if Israel continues to attack Lebanon, they can queer the deal. The president also said, this is a quote, "The one president I don't want to be is the late, great Herbert Hoover." He's talking to the president that was blamed for the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
It wiped out investors and destroyed the country. So it's true. But we knew it was true back then when we said it. Sometimes we said it to slings and arrows. What the president is saying is that what they did by closing the Strait of Hormuz impacted us to a degree and for a period of time that is unsustainable for us. In other words, their ability to endure pain was greater than ours.
Sure.
And they outlasted us. And even if the signers of the Memorandum of Understanding hold of the deal, as I said, there's another party involved, Israel. So the bottom line is that I don't think this is going to lead to a peace deal that achieves the goals the president set out as the reason to go to war, if it leads to any deal at all. At worst, after a cost of hundreds of billions of dollars, negative impact on the economy to every single U.S. family, and more importantly, the loss of 13 American lives. They won, and we lost. So what is in the Memorandum of Understanding? It's not that long, but we're not going to go through it all. We'll do just a couple of things that got my attention. Number one, and I'm going to read from it, then give some thoughts. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran and their allies in the current war are signing this MOU to declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and undertake from now on not to initiate any war or military operation against each other, and to refrain from the threat or use of force against each other, and ensuring the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon. The final deal will confirm the permanent termination of the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, and other provisions of this paragraph. Okay. They don't mention Israel. Israel has not conceded to us that we have the right to make a deal for that country. Lebanon has not conceded to Iran to make a deal for Lebanon. There is a war, sort of a war, the B side of this single. Mm-hmm. The B side is Israel versus Lebanon.
Right. Israel
is not going to abide this. It is not going to happen. Just watch. It over time, it's not going to happen. They can't. They just can't do it. Now, that's point number one. Point number four, immediately upon the signing of this Memorandum of Understanding, the United States of America will begin the removal of its naval blockade and any disturbances or impediments against the Islamic Republic of Iran, and will fully end the naval blockade within 30 days. So beginning yesterday, J.D. Vance yesterday in a press conference said, when does the 60-day clock start ticking? And he said, today, meaning yesterday. Okay. So the United States has 30 days to completely remove, or end the naval blockade. And continuing point number four. During this period, the traffic of vessels will be in proportion to the numbers of pre-war traffic being restored by the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's saying basically whatever the traffic was going through there before, we're getting back to that level. The United States of America further undertakes to remove its forces from the proximity of the Islamic Republic of Iran within 30 days after the final deal. Okay, so this is a Memorandum of Understanding. This is not the peace deal. So what it's saying is 30 days after the final deal. And would there be a final deal? I don't know. We're going to negotiate for 60 days or more to get to a deal that we then could sign. But the president is saying, and this agreement says, that 30 days after that final peace deal, we will remove completely all of our forces from the proximity of the Islamic Republic of Iran within 30 days. Now, that's confusing because we don't have boots on the ground. Where are we removing our forces from? Is it on the ships that are off in the Persian Gulf or in the Gulf of Oman? Or, as Iran has said, does that mean we're removing our forces from bases that are near? Because it says from the proximity. The proximity doesn't mean the property, right? It's not Iran proper. Proximity is bigger than that. It's a bigger circle. Proximity means near.
Right.
The region, for example. So not even addressed there is whether Iran is going to ultimately retain control of the Strait of Hormuz, which is what we say is the big deal. The U.S. has until July 19th to fully remove the naval blockade, according to this. And the point also suggests U.S. will withdraw forces from surrounding areas. So what does that refer to? Persian Gulf? The 50,000 additional service members that were deployed there? So that is squishy, and that's a problem. And point number 6, the United States of America undertakes with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed on plan with at least $300 billion of U.S. currency for the construction and development of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
How much?
$300 billion.
Okay.
So $1/3 trillion. Now, the president says that's not going to be any of our money. It's not U.S. money. It's going to be from a consortium in that area that benefits from the rebuilding of Iran. So by the end of the summer, Iran could have access to $300 billion for economic development. This is what John Cornyn was talking about. It is a huge sum of money.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is far more than Iran's frozen assets, right? If we're going to unfreeze their assets, this is so much more than that, which is really odd because the president has made a huge deal of the JCPOA, right? The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which basically was Obama's deal that the president tore up. He tore it up because in that there was Iran's own money that had been returned to them, made a huge deal of that, but it wasn't $300 billion. So now there's $300 billion that, according to this Memorandum of Understanding, Iran could get access to by the end of the summer. Now, we'll come to the conclusion in a minute, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But that's a big deal to say, hey, you wanted reparations. Here's a way to get you guys $300 billion, which is a lot quicker to get it than by charging per container ship that goes through the Strait of Hormuz. Point number 8, this is the last one we'll look at. The Islamic Republic of Iran reaffirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. The wording of that is really interesting. The Islamic Republic of Iran reaffirms. Isn't that interesting? They didn't say we commit to. They say we reaffirm. Why did they say we reaffirm? Because it's already in there. They already agreed to that in the JCPOA. That was already in the Obama agreement that the president tore up. They had already agreed. Now you can say, well, they agreed to do it, but can you really believe them? Okay, I'm sorry. Aren't we just trying to believe them now?
Right.
They're the same people. Actually, they're more radical than they were in those days. In any case, the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran, this is again point number 8, have agreed to resolve the disposition of stockpile enriched material pursuant to a mechanism that will be mutually agreed upon in accordance with the schedule mentioned in paragraph 7, with the minimum methodology to be, and it goes on and on and on. Basically, it's very, very, very squishy. So just some thoughts about point number 8. The president is going to argue that this pledge is a win because Iran is agreeing it will never have a nuclear weapon. Iran will argue it already made that pledge when it signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Agreement, and actually the language in this agreement is not even as strong as it was in the JCPOA, where Iran reaffirmed, quote, that under no circumstances will Iran ever seek, develop, or acquire nuclear weapons. That's pretty strong. It's not in the deal. That was in the old deal that was torn up. So there are 14 points, and that's just a few of the things that I wanted to mention about it. I've told my kids that when I turn 100, I will tattoo the names of all my grandchildren on my face.
Right.
I can live up to that promise. This is sort of like that. We're not going to get to 60 days. Something is going to mess this deal up. It might be Iran. It might be Israel. It might be a false flag. It might be Hezbollah. It might be the United States. I have no idea. But there is no way 60 days from now we're going to get to a peace deal. It's not going to happen. It will not happen. It cannot happen. Because we cannot abide, as we've said before, we cannot abide Iran being able to shut down the Strait of Hormuz whenever they want to. This is the lesson that has been learned. What lesson has been learned? We've learned the lesson, I think some of us already knew it, that Iran can endure pain greater and longer than we can. They care about their people less than our leaders care about us. The president says, I'm not worried about the midterms. I'm not concerned about that. I'm not concerned about the impacts on the American economy. I know that every American would pay just a little bit more for gas to ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. I think that's true.
Yeah.
But I think it's also true that we can't do that forever. And the inability to have threats be believed, which is what happens when you cry wolf 38 times. You're ineffective and you're ineffectual, if that's the right word. So I know, it'll make your head explode when you look at all these things. But that's what's going on. Could it mean good things? It could mean good things. Must it mean good things? I don't think so. I don't think necessarily it will mean good things. I think it really means that we did lose because it took winning to win, and they won because it took only not losing for Iran to win. And they are stronger than they have ever been economically because of the Strait of Hormuz. And when you add into that the $300 billion that could come their way by the end of the year, I feel like Greenland is probably begging us to invade them so they can get that kind of deal. Oh, it is a time for Scattershoot.
Let's go.
Wilder Show Scattershoot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The often forgotten holiday. Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. Happy Father's Day.
You know what there isn't for Father's Day? There are no tents in front of stores for Father's Day. You know why?
Yeah, I do know. Yeah, because nobody's buying dads anything.
Yeah, that's not true.
By the way, they don't do that anymore. No Kroger store for the last 2 or 3 years has had a white tent out there for Valentine's Day or on Mother's Day. Those tents do not exist. Okay. It was sort of a fun memory from our past, but it is not.
Oh, it doesn't exist. It doesn't sound very fun to me when we talk about it.
I know you don't. Well, good. So all the people that have anything they're doing for Father's Day have already, well in advance of hearing this, have already purchased things. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Hope you get to do whatever it is you like to do on Father's Day. And you feel very honored and loved and considered.
Yeah.
Consideration is the highest form of love.
I like that.
There you go.
I'm with you on that. We talk all the time about all of the ravages of the smartphone, all the ways we don't spend a whole lot of time celebrating all the ways that maybe it's made our lives better, but we do certainly talk about all of the terrible ways that it's impacted society.
Kids are different today.
Kids are so different today. Yeah, we're different today, I think, because of the way we use the way the smartphone has impacted our lives.
Real quick, I was actually yesterday watching the parade of the New York Knicks, and I was watching all the people. They expected several million people to be on the streets, and they all had to go through, like at the airport, to get onto the streets.
Yeah.
And I was watching all the people, and the way I was watching it was I found a thing on TikTok that was live streaming it. So I'm getting to see it, but all the people that are there, they all have their phones up.
Sure.
And anyway, so yeah, things are different. The phone has changed us forever.
I didn't even intend to talk about this, and this is not the direction that I'm going with this story, but you and I have talked about this. We're going through things at my mom's house, at the house where I didn't really grow up in the house, but I lived there for about 8 years before I became an adult and moved out. But my mom has lived in this house nearly 50 years, and boxes of things came with her from one house to another house to this house. And so we're going through things. We're going through things of my grandparents. And because we're going through things at her house, I'm also kind of going through things at my house a little bit, because some of those things at her house are now coming to my house.
Got it.
I was looking through pictures and I found a picture of one of my kids that's one of my favorites, and I sent it to him. And my kids are my youngest will be 30 in the fall. So my kids don't even really remember a time probably when we used to get film developed. That's sort of erased from there. If they were ever conscious of it, they don't remember it anymore. So I sent a picture of this picture to my kid, and he thought it was cute. And I texted back and I said, wait, you don't understand. This was on film. I didn't get to snap. This is one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken. I didn't get to snap 10 and hope that I would get one really cute image of you on the back of this pony. And he replied right away, and he was very gracious. And almost immediately I started thinking, this makes me sound so old. Like, wait, you have to understand how hard it was for us back in the day.
I mean,
we couldn't snap, 25 pictures of one image. And I just felt so old. So in all the ways that the iPhone has changed our life, and I think we've talked about this a little bit too, but there is even more evidence now that there might be fewer of us to be impacted by the iPhone in the future because of the iPhone.
How so?
This is a new study. It's published by the National Bureau of Economic Research. Hasn't undergone peer review yet, but it claims that the dissemination of iPhones that started in 2007, that's when we all first started getting our iPhones, helps explain a 33% to 52% decline in the U.S. birth rate among women ages 15 to 44. Isn't this crazy? Another little aside that I noticed in here. The study was done by Caitlin Myers, who is a Middlebury College economics professor. Her name is Caitlin. She is a Middlebury College economics professor. So remember when you first started hearing the name Caitlin become common. Now, those Caitlins are now old enough to be professors and to have stepsons who are 2025 college graduates, because her partner in this research is her stepson, Ezekiel Hooper, who is a 2025 Middlebury College grad. And it focuses on where the iPhones were available upon their launch from 2007 to 2011. This is when AT&T was the exclusive carrier for the iPhone. So they looked at those places in particular, not necessarily who had an iPhone, but where you could have an iPhone. And then they analyzed the birth rates by county in those areas. So they found that women in their 20s who lived in counties with what they called extensive AT&T coverage, which meant obviously more readily, the iPhones were more readily available to them, birth rates decreased by 14.6% from 2007 to 2011. From 2007 to 2011, birth rates decreased by 14%.
14%.
Birth rates for women in their 20s who lived in counties with no AT&T coverage fell by just 10%. So they fell, but not as high.
So whatever could be a reason that is not attached to an iPhone might have impacted the places where the iPhones were not available, but to a greater degree, it went down where there were iPhones.
Where there was a proliferation of iPhones.
Why do they think that is?
Well, there's even more, though. Birth rates for teens who lived in counties with near universal AT&T coverage declined by 26% during that same time period, from 2007 to 2011. Birth rates for teens who lived in counties without coverage fell by only 13.8%. So I don't know if this says something about the amount of, if you look at people who were in their 20s during that period of time and people who were, obviously, I think what they're saying, and none of this is, we've talked a little bit about this. There have been studies like this going on for years already, but this is another little bit of information that gets us closer to being able to say definitively that of all the ways that the smartphone has affected us, this is another one of those things that it has contributed in some way to a decline in birth rates.
Interestingly, though, 2011 was actually before we had social media.
Right.
So it was just smartphones, but it did not include the obsession. I would love to know what the numbers are between 2011 and say, 2021.
When did we first get Twitter?
I think those
And
things
Facebook.
happened
We had Facebook before.
to 2009 maybe, but you got to remember this.
We had Facebook before that. I remember because I had a teenager at home who was not supposed to have it, and I found out he did have it, and he was still in high school. That was my first, and he graduated in 2009. I don't think he's listening. It was not a happy day in our household.
Yeah, it launched in 2004. Facebook did.
Okay.
But in those early days, it was only for colleges. So it really wasn't widely known by people until actually 2006 is when it expanded to anyone 13 or older.
My son, who wasn't supposed to have it, did in fact have it. He was still in high school living at home, and that was prior to 2009. But he didn't have an iPhone until he was like halfway through college.
So he was on Facebook, but he's on his computer.
Yeah.
On Facebook. Got it. One quick Facebook story. I was at my buddy Andy's house, and I won't say the daughter's name, but the middle daughter. I don't know. We had spent the night there. It was early in the morning, came downstairs, and I was there, and Andy's wife was fixing breakfast, and the middle daughter walks up behind Andy's wife, Julie. And I look up and I see her.
I remember this story.
And I said, "Hey, guess who's my new friend on Facebook?" And right then, the daughter behind the mother is going like, motioning, no.
Making the little cut sign across her,
Yes.
across her throat.
And I think the mom put the spatula down and said, "It better not have been this one."
Oh.
And I was trying to recover. I said, I don't pay attention to this stuff. I don't know how long ago that was or anything like that. Anyway, it's sort of a fun memory of Facebook. Guess who's my new friend on Facebook? And she's like, "No, Mr. Wilder, shut up."
Yeah. The two authors of this study, Caitlin and her stepson, acknowledged that iPhone use, of course, is not the sole reason for the birth rate decline, but they were both surprised by how drastic the study's findings were. Way before any of my kids had iPhones, I still remember going places with them for for a family outing and saying, "You got to leave your phones at home or leave them in the car because I'm not taking you and all of your friends to the movies or out to dinner. I'm taking just the three of you." And that was just when they had access to texting. So even then, I mean, way before it was full of apps and all kinds of other distractions. It certainly was, or had the power to be a distraction, even when all they could do was text.
I saw a stat the other day: 70% of children are on screens while they eat. 70%. I remember
70%.
70. I remember growing up, it was no TV while we're having dinner.
Yeah.
Now your TV is right there. Everything's so distracted. How about everybody put your phones, don't just put them face down. Put them away in another room or whatever while we're having dinner. At least then you can scurry back to them shortly.
While we're on the subject, another thing that our phones do now, we've talked about this a little bit too, I think. Our phones, those early cell phones, they weren't able to, we couldn't track our kids. We couldn't know where they were.
Yeah.
I'm always kind of quick to say, too, this is something I do. My mom and I can see each other's locations. And I'm always very quick to remind her, I can't see where you are. I can only see where your phone is.
That's right.
So it might look to me like you're at home, but if you've gone out for the afternoon and you don't have your phone, I can't. And obviously, I only mean, for her safety. It's helpful.
Sure.
It's helpful for her to know where I am if she's trying to reach me and vice versa, too.
Yeah. Unless your mom is out committing a crime and has purposely left her phone at home to make it appear that she never left the house.
Yeah. I know that makes me sound really charming too. That I'm telling my mom, I can't really see where you are.
Yeah.
I can only see where your phone is.
Yeah, things we learn from Dateline NBC.
Oh, man. Yeah. There's a new survey from the University of Michigan that asks parents about their use of that technology to track their adult children, specifically between the ages of 18 to 25. So we're not even talking about young kids now. More than half of the parents said that they track their kids in that age group. Now, a lot of times it's in the reverse too. The kids can see where their parents are, and the parents can see where their
family
kids
thing,
are.
right?
It is, yeah. Parents and adult children are much closer emotionally these days than they had been in past generations. That's one of the reasons that they think this might be the case. I don't know if that's true. I think I was pretty close, at least to my mom, emotionally. I would tend to think that that's maybe why I'm closer to my kids emotionally, more so than that there is the ability for me to see where they are 24 hours a day.
Not talking about you, but could I read that sentence to me again, why people might be doing that? Why might families be doing that? Because they are more what?
Parents and their adult children are much closer emotionally these days than they had been in past generations.
Modify that for a sec. Maybe they're more codependent and nosy.
That could be true too.
And
Listen,
I think that's the part that I don't do that. I don't know where my kids are. Now, on occasion, maybe one is traveling, and they'll say, you know what, I'm going to share my location with you, so you can know that I'm safe, and you know when I get there.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, where is so and so? Oh, they're at the store. Where is so and so? Oh, they're at the library. Where is so and so? It's like my brain can't take that much information. I think for some people that would be the Miss Kravitz of the world. That would be you spend your whole time tracking and knowing where people are.
Well, you could. But I mean, if you had the tendency to be obsessed,
some people are.
If you had the tendency to be obsessive about it, you certainly could. The other half of this, though, it's kind of interesting. That was actually a quote from Lawrence Steinberg, who's written a book called "You and Your Adult Child." That makes it sound like it's kind of a good thing, right? About being, much closer emotionally. The second half of that quote is, he says, to the point where sometimes during midterms or finals, the students have to block their parents from texting them because they're interrupting them too much.
Yeah, I see.
So that makes it sound a little less healthy.
Look, everybody should do what they want to do, but I do believe it's kind of less healthy. You've had them for 18 years or maybe 26 years or whatever the number of years is or was, and untether a little bit. Let them go. Is having that contact, let me ask this sort of a fundamental question. Is having that contact about them, or is it about you? Is it for necessity, or is it for comfort?
Well, most parents will say that it's for safety.
I know what they'll say. I would argue that perhaps it's at least worth asking that question. I think sometimes, as we talked about before, parents who are doing that sort of over-parenting that continues well beyond the time when the person is, even a minor, that constant mommying or daddying or staying on top of them is, I don't think it benefits them ultimately. And I don't think it's motivated primarily because of them.
Yeah.
I think for many people, it's about me. I want to remain needed the way I've been needed before.
Well, and you know how that comes across when your kids are a certain age, that mommying and daddying, that being needed, it can come across as meddling, controlling, micromanaging. These are the things that you absolutely shouldn't do if you are tracking your 18 to 22-year-old. Don't ever text them and say, hey, why aren't you in class? I thought you had to be at work at 9. Don't you have a doctor's appointment today?
Who lives there?
Weren't you going to exercise today? Yeah, there's another story that some kid said, my parents sent me a text that said, what are you doing in an alley? He said, well, the alley just happened to be right next to where the Taco Bell drive-thru was. I was actually in the Taco Bell.
I mean, you have
drive-thru.
You have parents who, with some of these apps, you can geofence. You can say, tell me when, so-and-so is near George's in Waco.
Oh, man, I hadn't even thought about that.
So just let me know. Let me know if that cell phone ever gets near the big O's. They're at George's. I need to know that. It's too much already. Really, seriously, too much. I think everybody, it's the old, you are a full-time job. Just take care of yourself. As a parent, as an adult, take care of your family, your spouse, your significant other, or yourself.
You know, all families are different. Families have different boundaries, different things that they're comfortable with. The locations that I can see now, it's kind of fun to look and see what fun things they're doing. You know, I'm never looking at them to see, to check in and be sure they're home for the evening or anything like that. And I can say, without a doubt, this would have been terrible for me to have this kind of access when they were in college.
Yeah,
I was just.
That's a good point.
I was still so close to the age where you really are in charge of their whereabouts during
their well-being.
During all of those times. Yeah. It would have been a really bad thing for me to have that. And I think they would have hated for me to have it, not because they were doing anything nefarious, but it's just there's something about giving them that freedom and saying, you know, I believe we're going to go to a lot of effort, financial, whatever it is we're doing to get you to this place where you're going to be far away now. For these first 18 years, you've been living under this roof. Now we've all decided, you've decided, I've decided, you are responsible enough to be someplace far away and be on your own. And they would have hated for me to see where they were. I would have been a nervous wreck had I don't want to, you know, it's not necessarily that I would have been a nervous wreck, but I would have been way more, well, I probably would have been a nervous wreck. I would have been paying attention to it way more than I should have. I just know that about myself.
There are things in your life or in my life that need our attention, that if we're giving that attention to something else, if one thing, it is a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
If one thing's being done, one other thing is not being done. If you're spending all of your time monitoring or managing adult children, again, everybody do what you want to do. If it works for your family, it's great. Seems to me it could be a great temptation to be a problem, and I like using it for safety. I know, what is it, Life 365 or Live 365?
Oh, that was one of the earliest
360
iterations.
Yeah, Live 360. A lot of people still use that. And that was that kid that went missing there in Japan.
Oh, is that what they had?
Yeah. And he said like 20, I don't know, whatever it was, 20-something-year-old kid, 21 years old. And he finally turned it off. His parents could not track him. It seems like it'd be fraught with, why did you turn that off? Where were you?
Well, there's that too.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, it's too much. It's like inventing things to be a problem. And just harken back to the days that we didn't know anything. Parents didn't know anything, you know, and there's a happy medium between knowing everything all the time. Where are they? How fast are they driving? If it works for people, they should use it.
I don't know if this is true for all of my kids, but I do know at least a couple of them for them, and again, they're much older than this 18 to 22-year-old period that we're talking about, but they track a lot of their friends too. Like they can see where their friends all over the country are at any given time.
It's a different group of people that do this. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't want to do it. And there also is that I think we had a story not so long ago about when there's a falling out in the friend group. And they're no longer included in being tracked.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like we were all really good friends, and then so-and-so broke up with so-and-so, and we had to pick a side, and we picked his side
so many
or
more
her
ways
side.
to hurt each other's feelings.
Yeah, it's just all these things are ways of inviting things in that could be, at the very best, just something to manage. And at the very worst, could be very painful and maybe worse.
Yeah. For decades, you know, really, what would Scattershoot be without a dog story, a pet story?
That's true. That's so true.
For decades, pet owners have sworn that their animals calm them. We've heard stories about animals lowering your blood pressure, things like that. If you had a rough day at work, maybe curl up with your cat. If you're feeling a little anxious, let your dog climb up in your lap. I mean, unless your dog is 75 pounds, that might not, I don't know, depends on who you are. Maybe that, like, it's like a weighted blanket.
It's a weighted blanket.
It's like a living weighted blanket.
Smelly weighted blanket.
Yeah. There's a new study though, that's pushing back at least on a little bit of this. And it's one of the funniest things about this to me. It's about cats, that maybe cats in some ways are not always as soothing as dogs. And the study is so careful about saying it in a way which ultimately is nice, but it's like we don't want to offend cat owners. Just let us just report this, and we want to be really careful that we don't offend anybody in this, which maybe if they're, animal lovers, they want to be careful not to offend anyone. What do I know? But their researchers have studied the emotional lives of pet owners in real time. I usually this is another thing that makes me sound so old. I take offense to what does it mean in real time? Isn't everything in real time?
Yes, everything is in real time.
In this way, though, it makes sense. What they did was they had a bunch of pet owners, and they studied they had to respond to certain things over a 5-day period. And they like the ages of 18 to 54, all different ages, all different socioeconomic levels. And of those 5 days, one of them had to be a weekend day. So they wanted to get people across, all times of the day, and all, maybe one day when things might not be as stressful. And they had them respond to different things that were happening during the day and see, like, rather than looking back at things and seeing how their pet made them feel, they were tracking the respondents' emotions as they were happening multiple times per day over those 5 consecutive days.
Pause for a second.
Yeah.
How were they tracking? You say respond to. How were they tracking
on
those
your
things?
Phone. You got to, if you were a study participant, you had an app on your phone, and you were given times to respond, or things, maybe if things happened at certain times of the day, you had to respond, at those times. So you weren't looking back at the end of the day or at the end of the week and saying, or at some stressful situation that happened several weeks ago and saying, how did your dog or cat make you feel? So they thought that this would help figure out how your pet interactions reflect your typical daily life rather than really exceptional circumstances. Like my mom talks all the time about how she and our dog bonded when she was undergoing cancer treatments, and she was staying here at our house with us. And the dog, who rarely seemed to be cognizant of any of you would not have said that the dog was emotionally intelligent necessarily, but he responded really well to her during that time. And he seemed to kind of know when she needed it to be quiet and when she was ready for a little more interaction. So and you might look back on something like that and write the way that affected you in a way that might be different than you would if you're logging it in real time. Exactly. So what they found that there was no meaningful difference between the species, cats and dogs, when it came to everyday emotional benefits. Really, neither cats nor dogs could soften the emotional blow of an upsetting event during the moments when their owners were actively engaging with them. So they can't protect you from stressful situations. They can be comforting after a hard day. But if there's a specific, bad thing that happens, having a dog or a cat doesn't necessarily make it any easier. What they found, though, when these researchers looked at how people responded emotionally to upsetting events, that they found more engagement with their cat during those moments was associated with stronger negative emotions instead of weaker ones. And there was no pattern like that was found for dog owners. Now, the cat-specific effect was relatively small, and researchers urge caution before drawing broad conclusions. This was the part that I was saying they want to be really careful not to offend anybody, noting it will need replication in larger studies. I'm certain all of those studies are already underway before anything definitive can be said about this. But I have to tell you, we were at my mother-in-law's over the weekend, one evening. My daughter and I were at my mother-in-law's. She has a cat that she adores, and this cat adores her.
Okay.
While we were there, the cat stayed far away, like not hidden, not afraid of us, but in a different room away from us, which is not normally where the cat would be. The cat would normally be in my mother-in-law's lap, but it was almost like, get your visiting done and I'll come back when you're gone. I have no desire to, I don't need to hear any laughter or funny stories or anything like that. Just when y'all are, in fact, the cow was laying by the door, like by the front door,
waiting
to the home. Yeah. Like as soon as you're gone, I'll go back in there. And that is not my experience with any of the dogs that really any of the dogs that I've ever had. They want to be right there where the people are.
Okay, let me ask you this, though. Isn't it impossible for it to be apples to apples? In other words, you're not taking a person that has a dog and a cat and getting their reaction to how that particular animal is helpful to them.
That's true.
Versus the other one. It's entirely possible that dog people and cat people are different.
You're right.
And the cats, maybe for whatever reason, they don't provide that same kind of comfort that a dog person might receive from their pet. So it might have nothing to do with the cat. It might have to do with the owner, the owner of a cat, and not negative or positive, I'm saying is different.
No,
and needs or wants different things from their animal. For example, one of the things about cats, and again, I had cats growing up. They were outdoor cats, basically barn cats. I mean, their job was to, shrink the rodent population in the area. And I like that. I like having cats around for that purpose. But a lot of people like having cats because you don't really have to monitor them that much. I mean, you have them and they got the little auto water thing and you got the food thing and you got the poop thing with the
litter box
that rotates stuff out. And basically you see them every now and then. So you're not really counting on them for comfort. Most people, not your mother-in-law, not counting on them for comfort and companionship and saying goodbye to them as you go to the store for 5 minutes.
Who could you possibly be talking about?
The way some people might do that for their
dog.
dog.
Face in my hands and give him a kiss on his cheek and say, "I'll be right back."
Yeah. I'm just going out to check the mail. Love you.
You can see me right out the window.
I'm just taking the trash out, buddy.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. So I think maybe it's not the animal at all. Maybe it is the person. The people that have dogs expect other things from their pets than people who have cats. Cats are sort of aloof.
We've seen that before when we've talked about other studies like this, that people who own cats tend to be more responsive to surveys about these kinds of things.
That's true.
So you get more responses from people who own cats. And I also want to be really careful to mention that most of the ways that cats and dogs were found to be supportive emotionally were almost exactly the same. Cats just as comforting as dogs, just as emotionally supportive as dogs. It was just this one tiny little thing that where they saw a significant difference in cats.
Okay, I think you have 2 parts of the Wilder Show podcast this week. Sorry again for that from last time. Oh, and happy Father's Day again, lest I forget. Instagram, you will find us there. Search Wilder Show Pod. If you want to send us email, you could send email to podcast@wildershow.com. The Wilder Show podcast drops Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central Time or before on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube. Also now and again on the TikTok, wherever you get your podcasts. Would you like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share? We had a lot of engagement even this last week from those who are listening, and you do it on that platform and write the email or write the comment and thumbs up. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you'd like to see different. Anyway, engage us there wherever you get the Wilder Show podcast. And Lauren, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Da 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 da.